Man, Rush has never failed to deliver because this new album is just, it's, it's like it gets better every time you listen to it. It's just this incredible concept album that was released June 8th, a little over a week ago. Whew, I'm going to try to remain as unbiased as possible to do this review, but please don't hold me to that, because I don't know if you can tell, I'm, with the shirt and the tour, whatever. So, let's jump right in. All right! Hey guys, welcome back to TheMetalManTV. If you don't already know, my name is Mark Maya, aka TheMetalMan1112 from TheMetalManTV, and today I'm bringing you my very first album review on one of my favorite bands and one of the most anticipated rock albums of the year. And this has been, I don't know, what, 5 or 6 years since Rush's last release, Snakes and Arrows, which was a killer album, and I didn't think that Rush could surpass that. And they have achieved greater than that in the new Clockwork Angels that hit store shelves June 8th, 2012 in Australia and June 12th internationally. Rush has such a mature chemistry together, and it's just, you can hear it in every album that it's something better. It's another level of playing. It's just a new method of coming together and creating an album. And I don't remember the last time Rush attempted a concept album, and the theme lyrically in this album is incredible. Neil Peart is such an amazing lyricist, and he's really pushed another level for Rush in this album. I can't remember the last time a sort of progressive rock band was together for nearly 40 years, and this is their 20th album together. Rush has released 20 albums up to date, and all of them are killer. Is this their best album up to date? Now, I can't answer that, and I've listened to every Rush album since they started, and I loved all of them for different reasons. And I'm pretty sure a lot of Rush fans love different albums for different reasons as well. First of all, before I go into any more detail, I should probably advise you guys, if you haven't picked this up at your local, I don't even know, Best Buy, Barnes & Noble, wherever the hell they sell the CD places now, I guess. Or if you pre-ordered it on iTunes and get the digital booklets and stuff like that, I highly recommend you do. And it's not because I'm a Rush fan, it's because of how incredible the music is. And, it's not just limited to their playing. And what I've loved about this album is that Rush did not keep the same kind of technique for the sake of consistency or because of the sake of that's what everyone wanted. It's because Rush was different, and they ventured into different kinds of field when they did Snakes and Arrows, and even a couple of albums before that, when back in the 90s when they did Vapor Trails, and they had the live album Different Stages. It was just, I could see a turning point for Rush, and it's not a bad thing. On this album, it's very good. I love the ambient feel in the album. I love Lifeson's open strings, the synth parts, the strings. Neil Peart again beats the crap out of the drums, and he has his moments in the album where he really shines. And Geddy Lee's vocals, that open throat, kind of like just belting and just singing this miraculous melodies over all of this, it's incredible. And it's hard to accomplish something like that well, and Rush never fails to deliver. Alright, so let's start with the first 2 tracks on this album. Now, before we get into anything, I just want to make it very clear that this is my sole opinion. The album review is not supposed to be, you're right, I'm wrong, or vice versa. It's never like that. It's solely the opinion of the listener. I've been a big fan of Rush since my dad introduced me to them. I'm a young fan. A lot of my friends don't have any clue who Rush even is. So I'm proud to say that I'm a Rush fan, and I have a lot of good things to say, and a lot of those good things rule out all the I don't know about this kind of stuff, how I feel about the album. I guess I could say I don't really know any better, so I'm just going to lay it on you and just give you a really earthy kind of review on how I really feel about this album. Caravan and B2B were released back in 2010, 2011, when Rush went on the Time Machine tour, and I think the reason they did it was because they wanted to give the audience, their fan base, a feel of how the new album was going to be like. Rush has been constantly changing all of these years, and Snakes and Arrows was released, and it blew minds away because they've been together for such a long time. They really deliver in this album. For example, Caravan, it has this kind of old Rudy feel. I don't even know if that's a freaking word, Rudy. It kind of reminds me of like older Rush, the riffage in the beginning, when Lifeson just plows through that riff, and the drums kick in, and Geddy's like going crazy on the bass there. I love also all the synth work and the strings that are behind the album that you kind of don't realize that they're there until you give the album like a second or third listen. You start really hearing and start really paying attention to all that kind of awesome ambient stuff that's going on in this album, and that's really freaking hard to do. Alex Lifeson seems to be a master at that, because ever since he introduced that the technique of like open string playing and kind of having like the synths kind of creating like this atmosphere, it's just, I don't know. On Clockwork Angels, that shows up all over the place. In Caravan, it's very simple. It's not really too complicated to follow, and the breakdown to the chorus, when it just changes all of a sudden, and it kind of gives you that spacey, I can't stop thinking big. When Geddy Lee starts singing that, it really rocks, and then it goes right back into the riff like no mañana. And the solo section in Caravan has this like groovy feel, like it reminds me a lot of like Working Man kind of stuff from the first album, and it's just that riffage when he goes just fucking crazy, and it's cool, it's awesome. It's a feel-good track, and it's a great introduction to this album. Brought Up to Believe was supposed to be like the change in the album. It was supposed to be like the darker, atmospheric playing where it was just riffing, and it was I was brought up to believe the universe has a plan, and it's incredible concept, lyrics and work, and it just fits. Geddy's vocals, that little melody in there it's haunting, but it's good, really good. And Peart doesn't miss a beat. It's like, I don't know who said it, I think it was like Jack Black said it in one of the interviews, and Beyond the Lighted Stage, that documentary he did a couple years ago, that it's just like awesome. It's just like awesome sauce. It's just, Neil Peart is never even off by like a fraction of a second. He's just so perfect. And it's just, this chemistry is incredible. Brought Up to Believe and Caravan have been played since 2010, and they still rock on this album. Moving on to the next couple of tracks, where it kind of gets a little bit hard to understand. The lyrics start to change. It gets a little more complex. The third track is Clockwork Angels, the self-entitled track of the album, and it has more of a progressive feel. There's kind of like that simple syncopated feel, and the melody is all over the place, and it kind of has that. It has those moments when it sinks in and it's catchy, and then it kind of, everybody's kind of like separated doing their own thing, but it fits. And Clockwork Angels is the first step in the album that brings it back a notch, back to the roots of the progressive rock that Rush started to experiment with. And I've always loved Geddy's bass fills, the way that he keeps the groove inside the whole album, and Peart does the same thing. Alex is just ripping away at the guitar, and he delivers. Next track, The Anarchist, is a little weird. It's kind of, for me, this was kind of like one of those moments in the album where it was just kind of, where it kind of like felt like, okay, I guess, but it was kind of, and I feel it was a little bit limited to, for Alex Lifeson because of Geddy's vocals. And in a lot of the album, Geddy's vocals sound kind of the same. And it's because it was very reminiscent of Snakes and Arrows, and it had the same kind of like the vocal, the open throat singing, and it was just very melodic. But in here, he toned it down a notch and kept it kind of simple. And I think because of that, Lifeson didn't really feel a big change in most of the album. A lot of the album is very simple, kind of little weird changes, but very limited to his playing, and I think that's one of the things, it's one of those moments where you kind of feel, okay, I guess, because, I mean, it's just, I don't know how to explain it. There's something about the mix of everything that just doesn't feel right. And, well, of course, the track is called The Anarchist, ironically, so I don't know, maybe it's just kind of like the vibe. And again, this is a concept album, so the lyrical themes kind of all match up in every song, and the guitar work kind of has to interweave between each other, and it kind of matches, and so I can kind of see the point in that. The track afterwards, Carnies, has a funny little intro, and you know, it's supposed to be like the carnival, you know, when the young man is trying to go through, and he's going through a different, you know, part of his life, and he's going through, you know, I guess a carnival, Carnies, and he kind of starts drifting away from where he's used to being, and that's kind of how how I interpret the instrument work. The further the lyrical theme goes in the little boy's trip, when he's searching for truth, the work kind of starts getting a little more abstract for Rush, and it kind of floats in there, and it goes right back and floats in there again. And that's what makes the concept album, though. It's not that I don't like it, it's just the fact that I'm not used to it. And in Snakes and Arrows, it was kind of, every song had its own raw feel. And, you know, it was different moods in the album. And in this one, it's kind of like one dark theme that Rush is, you know, circling throughout all of their tracks. My personal favorite track is one of the ones that's coming up. Halo Effect is just such a brilliant song. It's simple. It's talking about how somebody some woman entered this man's life, and he thought that she was everything, and he realized that how silly and stupid he was to be, you know, putting a price on that, and or at least how I interpreted it. And it's just the right feel. It gets right back to like earthy Rush, and it's more sentimental, and it gets kind of, you feel that. You feel the mood changes in this album. This is why it's very, very good. This is why I really like the concept work that they did in this album. The instrumentation is just perfect. It's not too much. It's, you know, just enough synth, just enough guitar here. There's enough riffage in the bass. It's something to keep the drive. And in the moments where it needs to mellow down, it mellows down beautifully. And Rush has always been masters of those changes like that. The 7th track, The 7 Cities of Gold, this is just blown out of the water. It's, you know, obviously based on the old tale, I guess, that the little boy was told about the city of Cibola or something like that, the city of gold. And so he's venturing through, and he's, you know, trying to understand why he's doing this, and so the riffage in that is just, it's dark, it's heavy, it starts getting right back up tempo, and the lyrical, you know, Geddy's lyrical voice comes right back into the song, and it makes a great little progressive tune as the changes happen in the little boy's life. Alright, so the next two songs on the album are The Wreckers and Headlong Flight. Now this is a big turning point in this album, and it's not just because of the lyrical themes, it's also because of the instrumentation. In The Wreckers, it's this incredible, punchy, uplifting feel. It's just, bang, it's just like this ringing, and it's just this uplifting, like, triumphant feel in the album. And it's a pivotal point in the album and the boy's life. Because in the lyrics it's saying that, you know, sometimes the truth is contrary to what you believe, sometimes the target is you. And so this is a point where he starts realizing some morals in life. And therefore, you know, Wreckers has to have this uplifting feel. It's like he's finally realizing something. It's, you know, you ever have those moments in your life where when you kind of wish you had a soundtrack when something inspires you? That's kind of like what Wreckers feels like. I know it's weird to say, but yeah, that's it. The one after that, just easily one of the best tracks. Easily one of the best tracks, and it's the catchiest too, Headlong Flight. It has that, you know, driving, harmonic feel, but it also reminds me of Test for Echo. You know, that track, Headlong Flight, reminds me of a lot of this song called Driven by Rush. And other ones called Spit It Out or Stick It Out or something like that. Stick It Out, I think it was called. And anyways, it kind of has like that drive, like that heavy drive, but it's also like powerful, progressive. It just, there's changes. It's good. It's really good, and this reflects again the mood of the album. It's one of the point in the album where you're like, oh man, this is awesome, and you can you feel the mood changes along with the lyrics, and I gotta tell you that these lyrics are incredibly profound. A lot of people who listen to Rush may not realize the intensity of lyrics. And this is why I love Rush so much, because it's not just because of the chemistry of the band, but it's also the incredible lyrics that they put together for this album and for the last God knows how many albums now. I think it's like 20 now. It's 20 studio and then a bunch of live albums. It's the lyrics. It's how profound statements are and how incredible the work behind them really is. The next one is the second part of Brought Up to Believe. This is where it's supposed to go back to the darker feel of the album. This is like the last little bit of Brought Up to Believe when the boy kind of realizes that some of his beliefs are kind of being crushed. Very light, not very heavy, acoustic kind of stuff. And in a sense, that kind of parallels life. A lot of the times we are in situations where we feel kind of like our beliefs or some imagination of ours kind of crushed a little bit. And it's when we hit the concrete. We have our head in the clouds for a lot of the time, and when we hit the concrete, sometimes we hit it really hard. And Brought Up to Believe 2, Brought Up to Believe, BU2B2 is supposed to reflect that part in our life where we have to realize that things are not what they seem. The mellow guitar playing, the light vocals. I mean, that's what it's supposed to do, and does a great job at it. Wish Them Well is another epic track off this album, and it's not instrumentation that shines here as much as it is the lyrics, and the lyrics deal with, if you ever had somebody like do, just wish hateful crap on you, and has done something that's just terrible in your life, there's a point in our life where we realize that we just can't keep revenge in our hearts. We can't always aim to get back at someone. We have to realize there's a point to move on, and if we want to be the better person in a lot of situations, we need to, hence the name, wish them well. And so, because sometimes that's all we can do, and that's all that we should probably say, because it's kind of like that old saying, it's like, if you have nothing nice to say, don't say anything at all. Though a lot of people don't follow that. That's kind of what it's reflecting, that all you can do is just wish them well. A great lesson in life, yet again, taught by Rush. It gives the impact on the chorus when it needs to. And it's just like, thank the stars that you're not like that. Powerful, meaningful soul in Rush that I've always admired. Now, last but not least is The Garden. And The Garden is easily one of the most mellow tracks on this album, and it's because it has to deal with, all this light instrumentation to give a close to the album. And the point of The Garden, I think there was on the little booklet on iTunes, it said, and in the album, it says that this alchemist, I gotta look it up and remember the name, but this alchemist said that, now we must tend to our garden. It's a famous quote. And this is a great end to the album because it's like a revelation for the main character in this whole concept. The story is incredible. The work is incredible. And it's just a perfect combination, give and take, of both the aggressive, punchy, uplifting stuff and then the mellow stuff. And Rush has been masters of that forever. And that's what I love about this album. That the concept matches the feel and the mood of the album, of the instrumentation. This is an album that if you listen to it for like the 5th time, it just gets better every time. It's just one of those things where it grows on you. I love that about Rush. I love that about this album because every day I'm listening to it and it just sounds better and better and better, and I don't know how they do it. Go and get the album. It's amazing. It's incredible. And my name is Mark, my aka TheMetalMan1112 from TheMetalManTV, and you watched my first album review. Feel free to send me some albums, some bands you want me to listen to, some stuff you want to say. And if you want to spark a little conversation, not, this controversial debate in the comments below. Fantastic. I'd love to hear your thoughts about the album because obviously I'm not the only Rush fan out there. I know that. But being to the concert, it was one of the best shows of my life. And I will forever praise Rush. So, stay tuned. Keep it heavy. And I will see you guys next time. Peace in the Middle East.